Good afternoon and welcome to the 33rd edition of the COVID live stream of Namibia Media Holdings. This is on the 21st of April, obviously. My name is Frank Steffen. I'm the editor of Allgemeine Zeitung, and with me in the studio today is Tunole Mungoba. She is one of the editors in the MyZone paper.
Yeah, MyZone department.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me today, Frank. We need to start off the show with sanitizing.
Oh, I would have forgotten for sure again, yes.
The most important thing, the order of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, we all keep forgetting, and it's something that we should really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not only about social distancing, it's about basic personal hygiene, and yeah, that's the easiest way of making sure that this thing doesn't spread.
Yes.
I see there's a new initiative where they would like to enforce the wearing of masks. I don't mind it, and I will not mention the parties that are busy with that right now. I would just first want to see that WHO and CDC actually back these sort of efforts. I think that's the important part. We've always agreed at NMH that we stick to WHO. That's the most reliable source of information.
Especially during this crisis.
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, you've got so many specialists, you don't know where to turn first.
Yes.
Yeah, and talking of news, obviously, most of you people probably have heard or read about it. After SWAPO Party had their 60th birthday bash, the opposition parties, PDM and LPM, yesterday afternoon placed charges against them, went to the police station and registered charges against it for transgressing the regulations of lockdown. Now, obviously, everybody has his own opinion about that, but it was quite an interesting remark by one of the people that I read who reckoned, is it actually possible for any civilian to place a charge?
So, yeah, exactly. And what will be the exact charge that is going to be laid? Is it actually like a law?
Well, technically it's the same amount as for you and me. If you and I don't adhere to these regulations, then we pay 2,000 per person. So I suppose these people have to start opening their back pockets too. I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, I suppose. Yeah, that was the one thing. And then one of the articles today in the Republican concentrates pretty much on the tourism trade that's going downwards in a huge spiral now. It's sad to see. In the Allgemeine Zeitung, we had a similar article, and I think we all are starting to worry very much about that.
Okay. And another update that we would like to share with our viewers today is that the first open markets have been opened in Windhoek. It was one of the new resolutions of the extension of the lockdown that the informal trading section will be reopened again. So instead of taking a taxi to go buy fruits and vegetables to go all the way to town, residents in informal areas can just cross the street and
but I totally agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
We've spoken about it so often on this program. The fact that people out in the informal sector simply don't have access to electricity for fridges and whatever. They need to be able to buy on a daily basis.
Yes.
You can buy some of the stuff obviously sort of planning ahead, but I mean, there's no point in buying bulk tomatoes for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We all know they won't last if you don't put them in the fridge.
Yeah, and it's also just important to note that it's a section of the economy that's still up and running.
Yeah, and then let's face it, after the prolonging of the whole lockdown process, you would think that the 750 that's being given to those people in need now won't last very long, because let's face it, 750 is not really a huge amount of money. And it's one thing for government to ask that that money be stretched, but it's another to actually make it stretch for another 3 weeks. You know, so I feel this is important that we somehow help these people. It's just to get this whole machinery going again.
Yes.
And then you spoke of something else?
Yes, the city of Windhoek has recently also started disinfecting the single quarters area. So soon there will be another open market that will be available for trading purposes and for customers to make sure they get their raw meat and vegetables as well. Yeah,
I think it's important. It's small steps, but we should, because internationally you can see that's the sort of development all over. And by the way, then Denver Kisting yesterday afternoon spoke to Dr. Panduleni Itula. You might remember him as being the person opposing Hage Geingob as presidential candidate. And they had a bit of a talk. We only cut out the COVID parts from that interview. Would like to bring it to you. If you want to see the whole interview, please feel free to later in the afternoon watch the complete interview, which will be broadcasted as part of the Klets Kompass broadcast.
Let's have a look at the clip.
Many of your supporters, your followers, of your fans wondered what happened to Dr. Itula in the meantime, subsequent to the court challenge and now the advent of COVID-19 in Namibia. What have you been up to in the meantime?
Dr. Itula has been and is a citizen of this country, and we need to respect the authorities upon us. It doesn't matter what methodology was used, how they appeared there. We need to respect our head of state. His Excellency declared a state of emergency. It doesn't matter whether you like the person or not. Once he exercises a constitutional power, empowered to do so by Article 26, then we have got an obligation, regardless of our views, to oblige to those regulations. And those regulations clearly states that wherever any other laws are contravened in terms of these regulations, those regulations prevail. And unfortunately, I'm a normal citizen. I've got no special rights. I am obliged by the regulations by staying at home, not only to protect myself, but to contribute to protect the Namibian people. We need to understand that, irrespective of who is in the steering wheel, we are in this all together. We either sink together or we float this ship together.
Are you saying you are happy with the approach taken by His Excellency, the head of state, to declare a state of emergency and the regulations that ensued from that?
We need to move away from the blame game. A blame game is a denial. We cannot go on to blame the head of state for what he's done if that expresses his best approach to how he manages this situation. If I was in that position, I would find it very difficult to deny people their rights, and to deny them, especially in our populations where we haven't got so many literates understanding the virus. As a health professional, at least I understand what the virus is. But we need to appreciate what they are doing to the best of their abilities. And we can only do that. If they are able to excel, that's fine. But I'm not going to be in a criticism position to criticize anybody when I am not even a member of those committees. How do I know what are the facts? We are entitled to our opinions, but our opinions are not the facts. What we need to take into consideration, there is a lot of information going around, and some of the information will be confusing. What I will encourage the Namibian people to do, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, is to comply with the regulations for self-protection and protection of your family, your neighbors, and your community, and the entire nation at large.
Speaking of SWAPO leadership, SWAPO turned 60 years old yesterday, and there are pictures circulating about this event. And there's a lot of criticism against the leaders. For one, that there were more than 10 people present at the event, and on some of the pictures, some of the leaders were seen taking hands, so not complying with social distance regulations. What do you make of that, Doctor?
I think we need to be very careful in that we need to comply with whatever the law says. Simply because other people are breaking the law, that does not qualify or justify us to break the law. We need also to understand that, notwithstanding immunity prosecution to the president, I don't know what powers is inherent in the president, in the regulations, to say perhaps that once the president summons you, irrespective of all those powers and all those regulations, you march. I don't think that the 6 years birthday or 6 years marking of 6 years of SWAPO party should have been trivialized. I think conducting under the circumstances a birthday party was to trivialize the sacrifices many of our commanders, the Dimo Amambos, the Tobias Hainyekos, the Shali Kamatis, the Burungangas, and all those people. My own brother died at the front. The other one was shot next to me in 1978. There are many people that I've helped to leave this country. With a salute at the borders, see you in independent Namibia. I don't think those people would have wanted to be honored at a time when we have to concentrate on protecting the nation.
Doctor,
it was unacceptable a conduct, and again, to criticize and to blame will not get us anywhere. We need to comply with the provisions. Yes, do as I say, don't do what I do. Let us not do what their weakness is allowing them to do. Let's continue to rely on our strength to protect this nation.
Yeah, there's a bit of a different Dr. Itula for a change. He seems to be admitting that it is not quite easy to manage this situation on a daily basis.
Much calmer, and also making sure that he emphasized on the point that there is no one special, that we are all in this together.
Yeah.
Regardless, we are all citizens of the country, and we should listen.
Try and adhere to those rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the meantime, we had a question from Sally Purida. How long am I to wait for the 750 Namibia dollars while others who applied several days after me already got theirs? Now, it's difficult to answer that one just on facts or on these short notes, but what I would suggest you do is, number one, once you have registered, you get a confirmatory message.
SMS, yeah.
So if that SMS has not reached you, then somewhere your registration went wrong.
Yes.
Alternatively, if that message came to you, but you haven't received the money, then the chances are very good that you might have made a mistake when you entered your bank account details.
Yeah, or they are probably just verifying your details.
Well,
it
that
could take a
obviously
bit longer,
yeah.
you know, especially now because there's a surplus of people who are applying
Yeah.
at the moment.
So you might try and phone the number again. Maybe there's an option to just raise a concern. But I would suggest you wait for a moment longer, and if you see nothing happens, somehow get hold of them and make sure that you raise your concern. I'm quite sure if you took the help number of MTC, they seeing that they are channeling those information, they would at least tell you a number where you can follow up on your query.
Yep.
And then we obviously had Johanan Kutsie, who again put together a small video clip of this morning's COVID press conference.
That usually pay for taxes. Our expectation is for those clients to benefit from the economic stimulus as offered by government. The informal traders or the informal market, please take note, these markets have a huge population of our people and residents. That specific one in Windhoek, we are talking about 18 markets in total. Even when you talk about the street vendors, typical street vendors and hawkers, more than 2,000 at various corners in Windhoek. Now, when we come to the market itself, the magnitude is even huge. So the only area where we actually consider payment holidays for now, we are still looking at a council submission, is to probably waive the fees for those informal market. The informal markets that usually pays a fee between $50, $100 per month to $300, depending on the space that they occupy at our various informal markets.
And in households?
Households, currently we are still looking at it. Households, take note, 1/3 of the population already is subsidized. And we also expect back-to-back subsidy, either through NamWater and the government. Those discussions are taking place. So the other households, probably the more middle income and affluent, surely we are expected to honor our obligations during this period. But merits are not excluded. That's why I just indicated we are receiving now applications, but I think on a high level where we are, when you participate in a formal market, kindly exploit and engage the Ministry of Finance so that they can benefit from the economic stimulus as offered by government.
Yeah, well, the town is obviously trying to also meet the demands of the informal sector. The only remark that I feel is a bit out of place is that there is still that idea that everybody who was more affluent can now still pay his accounts. And yeah, sure, if you're rich, you're likely to have a couple of reserves. But I dare say the middle class is really going through similar experiences to anybody else. They don't have income. So for the town to say that unfortunately they have to pay, I have been of the opinion for some time now, and that's my opinion, not anybody else's, certainly not the papers necessarily, but I feel strongly about the fact that if everybody has to take pay cuts, and everybody has to save on how they will survive these next 6 to 8 months, then I think it's high time for, whether it's City of Windhoek or any other town, whether it's government as a whole, they also need to look at how they decrease their pay.
Yeah.
It would be extremely unfair to find that people are paying less taxes, not because they have tricks up their sleeves, but because there's no income. So they pay less taxes, the government has less income, and suddenly that shortage of funds is simply put together again by entering into new loans. It is now time for the government to also start saving, just as any of us else. If we say we're all in this together, then government needs to start sharpening their pencil and see how their salaries are being diminished for only for a time. I totally get it. It's the same with anybody else. And the same certainly applies to City of Windhoek, which has been known to take huge salary increases, even at a time where the inflation rate was around about 5%, they would still allow themselves 10% increase, and it's on record. So I'm quite, that's one point where I don't give in. I feel they need to be in it with us.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, that's a personal opinion. Then we also have a couple of our journalists who have sent us video clips again from all over Namibia. One very interesting one was Esther Kamati, who looked at UNAM's School of Pharmacy. They have started with producing sanitizers. Micheline Navati says she's actually spoken to Maria Petrus in the Umbili informal sector. Maricel Stoffberg has spoken to Thomas Horner at the Wingok. That's where our water gets recycled and cleaned up again. Yes. So yeah, Justina Shipena also went and spoke to a couple of guys in Evelyn Street and in Billy.
Before we get to the videos from the Windhoek region or the Windhoek area, Spopia Elias has asked, or she would like to know, how many positive cases are in Namibia? Yes. So currently, there have been 16 confirmed cases, 10 active cases at the moment, with 6 recoveries. So in comparison to other African countries, it is important to note that, you can tell that we are not as affected.
Because of our small population and huge area in which we live. But by the same token, by the way, yesterday there was a WhatsApp floating around showing some funny numbers with Namibia showing, in fact, 2 deceased. That certainly does not apply.
Yes, we'd like to dismiss that WhatsApp. I think it is attached to the NBC. So
there's something called about NBC, but even NBC says, no, those numbers don't come from us.
Welcome to the School of Pharmacy. This is our hand sanitizer lab, production lab. My name is Dr. Dan Kibule. I'm the Associate Dean of the school. I'll just briefly take you through the processes that we take to produce our quality hand sanitizer. Kindly come along with me.
Good morning. My name is Seth Ngobasep. I'm head of the pharmaceutics department that deals with production of anything like the sanitizers that we are doing here. Today I'm just going to take you through the different parts. The first part of any manufacturing process is the warehouse. And that's also the last part. The products come through the warehouse. That means the raw materials and the packaging materials come through the warehouse. And since this is a makeshift place, our warehouse is around the corner. So I'll quickly just walk you to the warehouse. And warehouse is where we store both the raw materials and the finished products. That's also where sampling takes place. The initial sampling of the raw materials takes place. And the raw materials consist of some of the things that you see, the packaging materials here, the bottles that you have here, the chemicals that you have here. So in here, so this is our current warehouse. It's just a makeshift warehouse, and what we keep here are the bottles, the cups of the bottles, the chemicals, ethanol. Is the production area where the products that have been dispensed from the warehouse are going to be brought, and this is where the manufacturing is going to start.
My name is Daniel Mako. I'm the lecturer of pharmaceutics in the School of Pharmacy. At this table, we deal with the main ingredient, the first ingredient, which is ethanol. As you have been hearing, it has been our main limitation. So ethanol is very important because it's the main disinfectant that is in this formulation. So the ethanol we use, since we are using WHO formula, we are using 80% ethanol. We are putting 80% ethanol. In other words, what we are saying is, here we want to make 25 liters of the total disinfectant. So the amount of ethanol in that 25 liters must be 21 liters, which is this. We have tiered this to make 21 liters. So the ethanol will be here, the final disinfectant will be somewhere.
At this station, it's where we add distilled water and glycerin to our hand sanitizer. The reason why we are adding the glycerin is just for moisture. When you have alcohol and hydrogen peroxide, it dries out the skin. So we add a bit of glycerin just for moisture and also just to protect our skin. And we add water because our alcohol have high percentage and we only need 80%. So we are adding water just to dilute our alcohol. And here, this is how we do it. Here we have our glycerol in the beaker, and then now we are going
demonstration.
to dilute it.
This is the glycerol. Then we'll add a bit of distilled water. This is how we mix it gently and smoothly for homogeneous mixing. We use a beaker and a stirring rod for the mixing purpose before we add to the big container.
And then just more water.
Add a little bit again.
And then whenever we finish to mix,
After it's all mixed well, then we pour it into our big 25 liters.
Good afternoon, my name is Tonate Mpara. I work under the School of Pharmacy, Pharmaceutics Department. At this station, we are measuring out the hydrogen peroxide. The hydrogen peroxide is the active ingredient in our hand sanitizer. It has antibacterial and antiviral properties. We received our batch as 50% and we diluted down to a 3% according to the WHO requirements.
Good afternoon. I'm Yano Matthews, a chemist from the University of Namibia. I just want to tell you the reason why we have the hydrogen peroxide in here. This is called the fume hood. We have it in here because the hydrogen peroxide is required as an irritant. So it can cause irritation to your eyes or to your nasal cavity. So this.
Hi. So far, we have looked at the warehouse and we have looked at the production area. There is another important area of the whole process that is labeling and packaging. That's the people who take this and turn it into label and packaging. So
I'm Diana Dakola, a 2020 pharmacist graduate, and at this station we just dispense the hand sanitizer into the 330 ml bottles for final packaging. So I'll just put an amount of the hand sanitizer into the beaker, as I'm doing now. The measuring cylinder to measure out about 300 ml of the hand sanitizer, which we then pour into the 330 ml bottles. From there, she then pours this into these bottles, and then we just pack them there when we're done.
So first of all, before I pour this exact amount that I got from Diana, I have to confirm if it's really the 300 ml that we're looking for. So I use the funnel just to avoid spilling and everything. And tap the bottle immediately to avoid evaporation of the alcohol. And this is our final product. And take it here, right here at the final product station.
what you've just seen has just concluded the production area, which had the different stations for making the product and then the labeling and packaging. So that's where the production area finished. But that's not where everything finished. What I'm going to do is now, I'll take you to the next station. That's one of the most important parts of the production, is the quality control. Quality has got to be built into the process, so we have got to ensure that there is quality everywhere. So I'll go to the quality control and then you can talk to and see what people are doing in the quality control department. Come with. We have started with the warehouse, the meeting that we had, the warehouse production, and now we have come to quality control, so I'll hand you over to the quality control department.
Good morning, my name is Mandela Sapani. I'm a technologist at the School of Pharmacy in the Pharmaceutical Chemistry Department. In this project, I'm the quality control manager. So basically what quality control does is just to ensure that our product is of the set standard. By doing that, we have to start off with our raw material. We do analytical tests on our raw material to make sure that what is stated on the certificate of analysis is actually what the product is. We do a visual inspection as well. After we're done with our analysis, we communicate with production to let them know whether they should carry on with the set formulation or whether they should adjust it. Once production is done with the final product, they give us a sample. We still do a final analysis on the sample. So this is Jonathan. He will just show you some of the techniques that we use to analyze our product.
So we need to test the raw material and of course the final product. So we actually test for the ethanol to make sure that it's actually at the right percentage. So this is one of the instruments that we use to actually test the percentage of the ethanol in the raw material and of course in the final product. Again, so what we do again is we also need to make sure that once the bottles are filled, we need to make sure that it has the right amount. So we also actually weigh that to make sure that it has the right amount. All right. So this is an internal test. So we also send our samples to QSO just to actually confirm that the raw material and the product has the stated what is this percentage.
And I'll hand you over to quality assurance to explain what quality assurance is, as opposed to quality control and any other things. This is the Deputy Associate Dean, Esther.
Basically, what quality assurance department does is that it ensures the total quality of the product, the overall quality of the product. And the total quality or the overall quality of the product is not just in the final product itself, but our role is to ensure that our entire process and systems conform to quality, which is set up by the different regulators, the good manufacturing practices, the WHO standards. We are responsible for developing and validation of various documentations that are used in the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. So if it is manufacturing documents that are used in the production department, quality assurance is the one which is responsible for development of such documentations and validating, and again all the other documents that are used in all other various divisions, including documents for maybe sanitation and hygiene and development of various standard operating procedures. All the various departments or divisions within the production in the pharmaceutical industry, in the end they have to report to quality assurance. So all the kinds of documentations that are completed and filled at every stage come to quality assurance, and the quality assurance department makes a decision whether to release the batch onto the market or to reject it based on the evidence that is provided. If there are any queries again from the customers or from the clients, it's quality assurance divisions that handles it. We are also responsible for liaising with different stakeholders, which is now our regulators, in our case is the Namibia Medicine Regulatory Council, and also liaising with the external quality control laboratories. So for all our samples that we test here, we again just send them to an external quality control lab to validate our results.
Everything begins and ends at the warehouse with production. And the reason is there are two parts of any warehouse. There is the warehouse where you have raw materials and packaging materials on one side, and then we have got another warehouse, part of the warehouse, where we have got the final products. These are called finished pharmaceutical products. We keep them separately because this is our resources that we use, and these are the products that we manufacture. When raw materials come in, we have got a quarantine area. Quarantine area is a place where we keep them before they are allowed into the warehouse. That means the quality control people come and take samples and go and test them. Once they are satisfied that the product that we received from the manufacturer is of the quality we expect, then they are released from the quarantine into general warehouse, which is the receiving warehouse. Similarly, when the products have been manufactured, we keep them in a quarantine area again, and in that quarantine area we keep them, quality control people come, take the samples, go and test the finished product with all the ingredients in, and then they are held there. The quality assurance then takes the results, look at the results, and after discussions decide whether the product should be released or not. And basically that concludes the process from beginning to the end. I'm Seth Mubasep. I'm the head of pharmaceutics department at the School of Pharmacy, and I am the de facto leader of this project.
So today I have the absolute privilege of visiting Windhoek here in Windhoek, which is the Kriagap Water Operations Facility. And I have the privilege of speaking to Dr. Thomas Hane, who is the General Manager, about the impact that the coronavirus and the lockdown has had on Windhoek as a company and the operations here. So Dr. Hane, thank you so much for availing time to speak to us. So what has been some of the impact and influence that this has had on your operations?
Okay, to the operation up to now, we didn't have any impact. We're running fine and smoothly. At the beginning, with the lockdown, it was quite a problem to ensure that all the transport which we get from South Africa and overseas as well is still getting to us in time. Up to now, I can say our stocks are as full as hardly ever before, so we managed to mitigate that problem. Obviously, in terms of transport within town and keeping our staff safe, new problems, new questions came up and had to be solved.
Definitely. What are some of the measures you have in place to protect staff? So things that they should do every day when they come to work and before they leave work then?
See, one very important thing is social distancing, to stand away from each other. And maybe you realize I'm always ensuring that we keep a distance from each other. We actually supply to all staff disinfection soap and hand sanitizers, which they are supposed to take home. Not only to wash their hands here, obviously we have our normal facilities here to wash hands and so on, but also to keep their, let's say, private environment, their families also protected and themselves. We sourced some masks, so as soon as people have to work together, sometimes you have to work together to fix something, they have to wear masks. Also for the transport to an offsite, if they share cars or use a taxi or whatever, we strongly recommend to wear masks, and we supply the masks and gloves to all staff again. We started to supply food rations to the staff for them not to have the need to go to shops and to face the risk of big crowds and so on. We started what has nothing to do with COVID-19 per se, but we also started this year, not compulsory, it's obviously voluntarily, flu vaccination for all staff. And we also give out supplements, vitamins, just to boost the immune system.
I think it's amazing to see how much you invest in the safety of your employees and to ensure that there's a safe environment that we have here at the plant.
My name is Ede Chimezue Emmanuel. The name of the business is Mama G Investments. Mama G. Yes. The challenges we are facing, because you can see the road is very dry, everywhere is dry. No customer because of this lockdown. Because some of our customers come from out of Windhoek. But now due to this lockdown, we don't have customers. You can see there's no place here, nobody, no customers. So we are just trying our best. We are facing a lot of challenges of no customer. That's the only thing I can say for now.
When you are talking about the coronavirus, we are talking about seriously diseases. In many countries, as we are hearing, many people are dying from that disease. And our country, as we know, Namibia, has communicated to the nation that we must stay at home. Like us, the business women, we are suffering so much because we were depending on our business. And also our children were depending on us. Like me, I did fail my grade 12 since 2011. But this year, I was planning to improve my points, but unfortunately, because of this situation that we found ourselves in, I can't even do anything. So this disease has been affected us so badly. I'm the only one who is taking care of my children. There is nobody. The father is an Angolan, he's so far, and I have nothing to do without any business. We are suffering a lot.
My name is Maria Hailonga. I sell at the Oshitenda bus stop. But now, people speak of this disease called the coronavirus. We were given the responsibility to put our sales on hold, especially for us vendors. But now, we are allowed to sell, but we're told to construct structures in order to keep a distance. So now we have constructed our structures and we have water so that we give the customers to wash their hands. And we resume our sales.
Those are some scenes got by our NMH journalist. And up next, we are going to speak to Kenya Kambowe, a journalist from Rundu.
Now we're crossing over to Kenya Kambowe. Kenya is sitting in Rundu and he's talking to us. He's one of the journalists of Namibian Sun. Hi, Kenya, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
No, can't complain there. Just quickly, Kenya, you and I have been speaking just before. You were speaking about the complications as regards the income grants. So how are things up there in Rundu now?
Things are not good as planned. First of all, yesterday we had a meeting with the regional governor, the new appointed regional governor, Honorable Boniface Wakutumo, as well as the various constituency councillors. It appears that the Ministry of Finance on the 14th wrote a letter to the regional governor to assist the Ministry of Finance in terms of rolling out this, ensuring that everybody, all the needy people, do get help in terms of this income grant. But what appears is that they were having some complaints. They raised some complaints, and I'm sure they wrote a letter yesterday in which they raised all these complaints, saying that it is unfortunate, it is not right for them to be consulted while the project is already running, which means that this is some kind of consultation after implementation. But they said that they are willing to assist the ministry, but only on their terms, and which is now for the extension, because as you know, the deadline was on the 30th of April, which is next week. But now what they want is that they want the deadline to be extended so that the guard sellers can make sure that the needy people within the regions do get this income grant. Because the challenges they have right now is the issue of a lot of people don't have cell phones, there's poor network catch up, and the other issue is the roads. Some inlands are very deep, they're very far. So a person will have to travel 100 to 200 kilometers to the nearest town where to retrieve this money, or send an SMS, which is quite costly and it doesn't serve the purpose.
Yeah, it was always going to be a problem. Remember, I remember being at one of the press conferences and asking the finance minister, Shimi, whether they had consulted with civil society, and he admitted that they had not really done so. But then by the same token, he actually informed everybody who was present that they had been consulting on a regional and local level. Now, clearly that was not quite as efficient as he probably hoped it would be, because if the councillors are now suddenly complaining, then you can imagine how many others are complaining. And that brings us to the next point, is really that the police controls are now also curbing movement of people. So even if the minister said that up to 10 applications can work through one cell number, this whole thing becomes a real problem for the people to actually secure that amount now.
Now, in terms of the police control, in terms of in the regions, I might say that the police are trying their level best, especially in town. They are ensuring the people are adhering to the regulations. In terms of the movement of people, like I said last time during our Skype call, that these regions are very vast. If you have to move from here to Divundu, which is still in Kavango East, from Rundu to Divundu, it is about 200 kilometers. You only get checked once at the Ndionap police check-in, and then they hardly do any testing. You just state your reason, where you are heading to, and all that. But in terms of, I also saw on the gravel roads, because going to Divundu there are two roads. There's either the tar road or the gravel road. On the gravel road, over the weekend, I also, there's a police station at Katere, which is also around 100 kilometers from Rundu on the gravel road, where I observe police that are there. They are asking people where they are going to. If you are, maybe for example, 4 in a vehicle, they will ask you to put one. If it's a bakkie, one person has to go to the back. But in terms of them enforcing that people do adhere to the state of emergency regulations, in terms of police checkings, yeah, it is being done.
Yeah, but that's exactly the problem, is it not? Because if you look at the gravel road that goes parallel to the tar road, it obviously follows the river to a large degree, and there are almost every 4 or 5 kilos you see another sand road going off into the bush. So if the people start talking to each other, the police almost has an impossible task to actually keep the people under control. Is it not so?
That is the case in terms of people always trying the illegal way to get around things. It will always be there. But in terms of the problem here is that you don't know where the police will be. That's the good thing about it. You wouldn't know where they will be. So I would just like to encourage our readers or our viewers who are taking part in such activities not to do so, because you never know where the police are. That's the good part of it. But in terms of, I also spoke to the regional commander of the police. They are saying that in terms of the river patrols, they are doing so. Like, understand that tomorrow they will be taking some immediate along the road from Rundu to Diona, just to show us how they are doing the river patrols. But in terms of, but the only challenge they have is just the capacity, to do all this in terms of vehicles and all that. Some, to be honest, some areas like deep in the inland where you need a 4x4 to go, it's difficult for the police also to conduct their operations. But I must say that the police are really trying their best in Kavango East region.
Okay, and so how's what has happened on the open market front there? Because obviously since yesterday, people are allowed to once again sell their fresh produce and whatever at the open markets. How's that worked out in Rundu?
Okay, this morning I spoke to the acting Rundu CEO, Mr. Sem Nekaro. He briefly just told me that Rundu Town Council is looking at opening the open markets this coming Thursday. So, but the only problem is that the reason why they are only trying to make the only thing that's not going to be the same is that there's not going to be any hawking. What they will do is that they will try and accommodate all those who used to operate the street vendors, either in the open market you still have capacity. They will also try and use the Rundu Trade Fair Center, as well as there's a taxi rank at the entrance of Rundu there.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've lost Kenya there, but I think we were quite close to concluding the interview in any event. So, yeah, obviously you get a bit of news from Kenya, and I think the most important part here is that their open markets will only start on Thursday. So let's see how this story continues. Now, yeah. That was our talk to Kenya Kambove in Rundu. We're pressed a bit for time, so we'll immediately go forward to another interview that we had with Beverly Kusman. She is the PRO of Namibia. Today we've got Beverly Kusman in our studio. I'm Frank Steffen from Allgemeine Zeitung, and I had a bit of a talk to her. Welcome in our studio.
Thank you for having me.
She's from Namib Desert Diamonds, and Namibia probably better known to most of you. So obviously we want to hear, how did COVID affect you so far?
Well, we're operating remotely at the moment. The majority of our staff are working from home. Luckily, we had the resources and have the resources to be able to do that, and also because we are a small company. We do have staff that are on location, and those are the staff that is for security reasons, and obviously also the diamond, the people who have direct access and work directly with diamonds. So that's what we've been doing since, in fact, we've been operating remotely since just 2 weeks before the initial lockdown of the government.
So you tested it early?
Yes, so we decided to go in early, in a sense, because we thought the best way possible would be to just start doing this from the beginning and then see how it affects us. So far, we've been operating pretty well. Obviously, from an international perspective, we have clients.
There's not much going on, I suppose.
Yes, exactly. So the majority of our clients are international clients. We normally have direct sales. So we have clients who normally travel all the way to Namibia, look at our stock, diamond stock, purchase directly from us, and then leave the country. So that has affected us quite tremendously.
So the travel ban is really impacting on you?
Yes, absolutely. It's impacted. I think besides the tourism industry, which has been impacted tremendously, we are also feeling the brunt of that at the moment.
Like most of the mining industry. Yeah.
Exactly.
But still, you made a bit of an effort, and you've got an initiative going at the moment. They distributed quite a number of, if I understand, food packages and whatever. Maybe you can expand on that?
Yeah. The great thing about this was that we initially set aside 50,000 Namibian dollars for this project. and then Nuska Investment came on board, and they matched that. So we were able to double our efforts in a sense. So they came on board, and then Namibia Construction also came on board. They assisted us with the transporting, because it was 9,000 kilograms of food.
So
Yeah,
that's a
that we,
truck full, yeah.
it was a truck full and a few other vehicles that we had to transport the food. And what we did is we came together at the office. We did it all at our offices. Staff volunteered. People who were at home said, "Why not? It's a good reason to leave the office, to get out of the house." Yes, so we packaged all the food, and we worked with a few community councillors, etc., to help us identify the areas, because obviously the most important thing is to try and focus on which areas are really that really needed the most help. Yeah, so
it's
that's
quite difficult to actually distinguish, because obviously there are a number of people who need it. So where did you mostly concentrate your help?
We concentrated on in the Okahanja Park. Yes, statistically, and it's something that I learned throughout this process, is that that informal settlement has about 10,000 inhabitants. So that is quite a big area that I was also not aware of. So that was the area we focused on, and the councillors helped us identify 3 different areas. So what we did is we stopped at 3 different areas and we offloaded. So the 200 food packages that we had packaged, so we went from 3 different, so that's what we did. And the people in the area, you know, they were really nice, very happy to see us. Some were even willing and wanting to assist, but we had to follow and respect the guidelines behind the lockdown. So safety first, etc. We were also covered in safety, personal protection equipment, etc. And yes, so it was a full day's workout in a sense. Because
but 200 obviously is not that much if you really take it in terms of numbers. But it's what really happens now is you gave 200. We had other people here before on videos where they've given private initiatives, companies, all types of people help. So if at the end of the day we've got 200 times 200 people, then suddenly it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
So what's your next plan in that regard now?
Our next plan, one of our international clients actually saw what we were doing, and they were impressed. They love Namibia as well, because they travel to Namibia quite regularly, and they decided to come on board. So they are matching exactly what we had set out in the first distribution. So they've matched that out, and we'll be distributing as soon as we possibly can. We're working obviously on locating which area we want to concentrate on this time around, because we're trying to be careful not to double distribute in a sense. So we're trying to see where we can go where it hasn't been attended to in a sense, in areas like that. Also the logistics behind it, trying to get our protective gear again, transport and all these things. So we will definitely let you know once we've put that
we would be interested to know. And then on the other hand, who knows, you might extend it to the other mining companies, see whether you can't get a challenge going.
Very true. That would be fantastic if we can do that.
Whoever listens to this and is part of the mining industries, maybe you can make a plan too. With that, we already come to the end of the interview. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope all the best for your endeavors in the future.
Thank you very much. All the very best to you as well.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
There was an interview with Ms. Beverly from Namibia, the public relations officer, who had a talk with Frank on how the mining and diamond industry has been affected due to the outbreak.
Yeah. And that basically brings us almost to the end of our show. We've still got the positive pictures.
Yes, so we have our first image is from the My Namibia Facebook page, and it is titled "The Kalahari as you have not seen it yet."
Full of ice.
Yes. So it seems like there has been a cold, icy situation in the Kalahari.
Yeah. This was actually not snow. This was really like in little ice.
Yeah. And then our second photo is from John Pinar, titled "Waterhole at Masindi," which is in Khobabe. So it's an image of the oryx and some warthogs.
Yeah, it's really just to remind us all that
Mhm.
we're still thankful for the rain
Yes.
each and every day. And that brings us to the end of the show, just on the top of the hour. Thank you for coming in, Tenole.
Thank you so much, Frank. And I would like to urge our viewers to please send their contributions to our WhatsApp number. That is 0811 7010. So anything positive, anything from a video or a photo of you sharing how you're working from home, or if your learners or your children have started online learning, would like to have a look on how you're keeping busy during this time as well.
And with that, we thank you for being patient with us and viewing. See you tomorrow.
Yes, goodbye.
Remain healthy.